You ever have one of those days where the California sun is shining just right, your backyard smells like fresh cut grass? The water in your brand new pool glimmers like blue crystal, and you honestly believe just for a minute that you finally made it. Yeah, well, that was me. For about 30 seconds. Because in the next breath, Karen Whitmore blocked my path on the deck phone already to her ear, and in her best brittle glass voice, she's saying, "There's a black man trying to break into our community pool. You know what I mean? That happened. My name's Marcus Williams, and I spent my life working 3 jobs to buy this house, to build this pool, to carve out a little piece of paradise for my wife Diane and our daughter Zoe." And in one phone call, Karen tried to rip it all away. Thing is, she knew who I was. She'd seen me 100 times. But when the cops showed up 20 minutes later, laughing off her mistake, I realized something had changed. This wasn't just some nosy neighbor drama. It was a warning shot. See, I've always been proud of these hands. Strong from years of construction, steady enough to braid Zoe's hair or thread a needle for Diane's quilts. These hands had just finished paying for that pool, every last penny coming out of overtime and weekend shifts. Diane had already picked out the patio furniture, modern stuff arriving tomorrow. Zoe was so excited she wore her purple swimsuit around the house all week, goggles on her forehead like a little queen. "Daddy, can we swim now?" she'd asked, bouncing around like a puppy. And I grinned, double-checking the chemicals for the 10th time. I wanted everything to be perfect because this wasn't just about a pool. This was about belonging. About showing you can build something beautiful, even if you grew up bouncing from foster home to foster home. The doorbell rang just as I was testing the water. "I'll get it," Zoe yelled, but I caught her, peered through the peephole, and there she was, Karen, from 3 houses down, that neighbor. Blonde, always looking like she was headed to a country club, even on a Tuesday, with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. I open up Zoe peeking from behind me, and Karen goes, "We need to talk about your project." Just like that, turning the word pool into something dirty. She let me know without saying it outright that my pool wasn't welcome. "It's about property values," she said. "It's about maintaining the character of this neighborhood." "The character, huh?" Her voice was so cold I felt it in my bones. Zoe tugged my hand, sensing the tension, and I told her to get her water wings. We'd swim soon. But Karen wouldn't leave. She talked about crowds, about parties, about the wrong kind of people coming through Willowbrook Estates if we set the wrong example. I had heard the code before, never direct, but clear as day if you've lived it. "I got all my permits," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Everything's above board." But Karen just smiled, told me she'd spoken to other neighbors. "That pool needs to go." "You need to leave," I said. And for a second her mask dropped. She jammed her foot in the door, threatened me with the HOA, which, jokes on her, doesn't exist here, and said the city would be interested in noise ordinances. I closed the door on her deadbolt, echoing through the house. Zoe came back, face scrunched with worry. "Who was that lady?" "Just a neighbor's sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups argue over silly things." But I knew deep down that wasn't the end of it. We swam that afternoon, just me and Zoe, the water cool and clean. I tried to ignore Karen's silhouette watching us through her kitchen window, her phone pressed to her ear. But Monday morning at 7:00 a.m., the real war started. Call after call. Code enforcement, city planning, fire department, community standards. Every agency you could imagine, all anonymous complaints about my pool. By noon, I'd spoken to 7 different departments, each one more confused than the last. At work, my friend Tommy, my best guy on the crew, asked, "What did you do?" "Build a pool in the mayor's yard." "Just my own," I muttered. By that evening, Diane was waiting with a stack of paperwork, 12 different notices. Most were bogus. "This is harassment," she said, voice trembling. "Karen Whitmore," I said. "She's behind this." I told her about the Saturday showdown. Diane wasn't even shocked, just tired. "I hoped we'd left this behind when we moved here," she whispered. But we hadn't. And when the next day brought a call to Zoe's school, a woman pretending to be CPS fishing for trouble, I felt something in me break. They could come after me, after my pool, after my money, but my daughter, that's a different kind of battle. Then came Tuesday. Diane was home waiting for an inspector who never showed, but Karen did. She came in our backyard through the gate, snapping pictures of everything. Said she was building a case for the city council that she might have to call CPS for unsafe conditions. Diane was crying by the time I got home. She threatened Zoe, maybe not directly, but she knows what she's doing. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was cold. I loaded Zoe and Diane in the car. We drove past Karen's house and saw a living room full of neighbors, 15. At least Karen at the front, pointing at photos of my house, my pool. Even Mrs. Chen, who'd always been sweet to Zoe, was there, nodding along. "Daddy, why are they looking at our pool?" Zoe asked. I had no answer. But that night I started digging. A private investigator turned up gold. Karen wasn't just a neighbor. She was a paid stooge for Henderson Development, the same company that tried to buy our lot 2 years back. She'd done this before 3 times, even got a restraining order from a former neighbor. This wasn't about me, it was a playbook. I called my old college roommate Derek, now a reporter. "What do you know about Henderson?" I asked. Turns out they'd harassed families across the county, flipping houses by running folks like me out. By noon, Tommy and Derek had assembled a team contractors, other victims, even a doctor whose practice got hit with fake complaints. By Thursday, Karen's crowd had filed so many complaints it nearly cost Diane her job, child endangerment, unsafe pool, you name it. The school called. Someone showed up pretending to check on Zoe. Security stopped her, but it was too close. That afternoon, I called Officer Martinez, the one who'd inspected my pool and given me his card. He showed up with another officer, and this time Derek brought a camera crew. The evidence was all there: complaints, payments, security footage. As Officer Martinez and a federal agent, Special Agent Kim, Civil Rights Division, pieced it together, Karen's web unraveled fast. Karen was arrested live on the evening news, screaming, "This is America! I shouldn't have to live next to these people!" Officer Martinez laughed right into the camera. "Lady, the only person who doesn't belong here is you." Agent Kim just shook her head. "In all my years, never had someone confess on TV." Karen pled guilty, did 18 months in prison, and had to pay restitution. Henderson Development got slapped with a $15 million federal civil rights lawsuit. Their CEO, prison. Derek's series won a Pulitzer. But for me, the best day was the one when my daughter cannonballed into our restored pool, laughing as water splashed everywhere, and Diane handed out lemonade in her new bikini. Friends and neighbors, some who'd once doubted us, crowded our backyard, eating Mrs. Chen's cookies, filling the place with noise and joy. And for a moment, standing in that summer sun, I felt peace. Sure, Karen Whitmore was sitting in a cell somewhere, blaming everyone but herself, and Henderson's lawyers were still spinning. But my daughter was swimming, my friends were laughing, and our family was home right where we belonged. So let me ask you, when you see someone fighting just to be left in peace, do you stand by or do you stand up? Because if there's anything I learned, it's this: justice doesn't come easy in neighborhoods like mine. But when it comes, it's sweeter than you can imagine. Now tell me, who do you think was really in the wrong here? And how would you have handled it? I want to hear your story.